power, kingship, destiny. Some are born into it, while others fight for it. But what happens when a man is given everything, power, wisdom, and wealth, yet his very existence begins with scandal? This is the story of Solomon, the man who would become Israel's greatest king. Long before Solomon sat on the throne, his name was tied to one of the most controversial moments in Israel's history. His father, King David, a man after God's own heart, fell into a tragic downfall. One night he saw Bathsheba, a beautiful woman bathing on her rooftop. Desire clouded his judgment. Lust led to sin, and that sin led to deception and murder. Bathsheba was already married to Uriah, one of David's most loyal soldiers. But loyalty meant nothing when temptation overpowered righteousness. David orchestrated Uriah's death, thinking he could cover his mistake. But nothing is hidden from God. The prophet Nathan was sent to confront David, delivering words that cut like a sword. "You are the man." 2 Samuel 12:7. Judgment followed. The first child born from this sin did not survive. A heavy price was paid. But then came redemption. From the ashes of scandal, a child of promise was born, Solomon. But Solomon was never the obvious choice to be king. David had other sons, older, stronger, more expected to take the throne. The natural heir should have been Amnon, but his wickedness disqualified him. Then came Absalom, charismatic and powerful, but pride consumed him, leading to rebellion and death. One by one, David's sons fell, and in the end, it was Solomon, the unexpected, whom God had chosen. But not everyone accepted this. His older brother, Adonijah, saw himself as the rightful heir. While David's strength faded, Adonijah made his move. He gathered warriors, declared himself king, and threw a grand feast to celebrate his self-proclaimed rule. Yet power does not belong to those who take it by force. It belongs to those whom God appoints. The prophet Nathan, alongside Bathsheba, intervened. They reminded David of God's promise. Though frail, David acted. He ordered Solomon to be anointed, and in that moment, everything changed. The trumpets sounded. The people shouted, "Long live King Solomon!" Adonijah's celebration turned to fear. His supporters scattered. His rebellion collapsed. For promotion cometh neither from the east, nor from the west, nor from the south. But God is the judge. He putteth down one, and setteth up another. Psalm 75, 6-7. Solomon had not taken the throne. It had been given to him. But ruling was not just about securing power. It was about proving he was worthy of it. And the challenges had only just begun. Power can be inherited, wealth can be amassed. But wisdom is a gift, one that even kings must ask for. And Solomon, standing at the dawn of his reign, had a choice that would define not only his rule, but his very legacy. It happened in a dream. After securing the throne, Solomon traveled to Gibeon, where he offered 1,000 burnt sacrifices to God. It was an extravagant act of worship, a public declaration that his reign would begin with divine favor. That night, as the smoke of the offering still lingered, God appeared to him in a dream with an offer that would make any man's heart race. "Ask for whatever you want me to give you." 1 Kings 3:5. Imagine that. The creator of the universe offering a blank check. The possibilities were endless, riches beyond measure, victory over enemies, an empire that would last forever. Most kings would have seized the moment for personal gain. But Solomon asked for something different. "I am only a little child and do not know how to carry out my duties. Give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people and to distinguish between right and wrong." 1 Kings 3:7-9. Wisdom. He asked for wisdom, not power, not wealth, not the downfall of his enemies, just the ability to lead with understanding. And in that moment, heaven rejoiced. God was pleased, so pleased that he gave Solomon more than what he had asked for. Since you have asked for this and not for long life or wealth for yourself, nor have asked for the death of your enemies, I will give you a wise and discerning heart, so that there will never have been anyone like you, nor will there ever be. 1 Kings 3:11-12. But God didn't stop there. Moreover, I will give you what you have not asked for, both wealth and honor, so that in your lifetime you will have no equal among kings. 1 Kings 3:13. Wisdom, wealth, and honor, all poured out in full. But wisdom is not proven in words, it is revealed in action. And Solomon's first test came sooner than expected. 2 women stood before the king, sobbing, desperate, each claiming to be the mother of the same baby. There were no witnesses, no evidence, no way to prove the truth. Any other judge would have been powerless. But Solomon was no ordinary judge. His solution? A sword. Cut the living child in 2 and give half to one and half to the other. 1 Kings 3:25. The court gasped. A horrifying decision. But Solomon wasn't seeking blood. He was seeking truth. One woman's response revealed everything. She broke down, pleading, "Please, my lord, give her the baby. Don't kill him." 1 Kings 3:26. While the other stood cold, unmoved. The real mother had spoken, not with her words, but with her heart. Solomon pointed to her and declared, "Give the baby to her. She is his mother." 1 Kings 3:27. Word of his wisdom spread like wildfire. The people of Israel stood in awe, realizing their king was not just powerful, he was divinely gifted. But wisdom, though a blessing, would also be Solomon's greatest test. Because knowing right from wrong is one thing. Living by it, that's another story. Not all empires are built with swords. Some are built with wisdom. And Solomon understood something that few kings ever did. True power is not about conquering through war, but ruling through influence. While his father, David, had expanded Israel's borders through battle, Solomon would expand them through something far more enduring: wealth, diplomacy, and trade. Solomon's kingdom was unlike anything Israel had ever seen. It was an era of prosperity, a golden age where riches flowed in abundance and peace ruled the land. But this did not happen by accident. It was the result of strategy, vision, and a mind gifted by God. The blessing of the Lord brings wealth without painful toil for it. Proverbs 10:22. From the moment Solomon took the throne, he sought to secure Israel's future. Instead of waging costly wars, he forged alliances sealed through royal marriages, including one of his most famous unions with Pharaoh's daughter. With each new marriage, a political bridge was built. Kingdoms that might have once been enemies now called Solomon a friend. Trade became the lifeblood of his empire. Solomon understood that wealth was not just in gold or silver, but in connection, creating networks that spanned across nations. He developed trade routes that stretched from Egypt to Mesopotamia, Arabia, to the Mediterranean. Israel became a hub of commerce, a land where merchants from distant lands gathered to exchange goods. But Solomon's greatest move was at sea. He built a navy, a fleet unlike anything Israel had ever known. Partnering with the seafaring Phoenicians, Solomon sent ships across vast waters, reaching lands as far as Africa and India. The Bible records that these voyages brought back gold, silver, ivory, apes, and peacocks. 1 Kings 10:22. Luxuries that no other nation had seen filled Israel's markets. And the wealth? It was staggering. Silver became as common as stones in Jerusalem. The king's treasury overflowed with gold. Foreign dignitaries traveled from all corners of the earth just to witness Solomon's greatness. Among them was the legendary Queen of Sheba. She had heard the rumors, but she did not believe them until she saw it with her own eyes. I did not believe these things until I came and saw with my own eyes. Indeed, not even half was told me. In wisdom and wealth, you have far exceeded the report I heard. 1 Kings 10:7. This was no ordinary kingdom. It was an empire built not on conquest, but on wisdom. Israel was no longer just a small nation in the Middle East. It had become the center of the world. But with great success comes great danger, because when a man has everything, he often forgets the one who gave it to him. For centuries, Israel had worshipped in a tent, a temporary tabernacle carried from place to place since the days of Moses. But now, under Solomon, that was about to change. No more wandering, no more makeshift altars. It was time to build a house for the Almighty, a place where God's presence would dwell forever. This wasn't just a construction project, it was the fulfillment of a dream. Solomon's father, David, had long desired to build a temple, a permanent home for the Ark of the Covenant, but God had denied him that honor. You have shed much blood and have fought many wars. You are not to build a house for my name. 1 Chronicles 22:8. The task was reserved for his son, and now that moment had come. Solomon wasted no time. He summoned the finest craftsmen, stonemasons, and artisans from across the land. He secured an alliance with King Hiram of Tyre, who provided the famed cedars of Lebanon, timber so strong and majestic that it was fit for the dwelling of the Most High. From Ophir came gold of the purest quality. From distant lands, precious stones and exotic materials arrived. No expense was spared. This would not be just a building, it would be a wonder of the world. For 7 years, laborers worked tirelessly. The foundation was laid, the walls rose, and intricate carvings filled every inch. The temple was 90 feet long, 30 feet wide, and 45 feet high. But its true beauty was not in its size, but in its detail. Every inch of the inner sanctuary was covered in pure gold. The floors, the walls, the ceilings, shining with divine brilliance. Massive cherubim, 15 feet high, spread their wings over the Ark of the Covenant. 10 golden lampstands stood, casting a glow over the sacred space. And when the final stone was set, Solomon called for all of Israel to gather. It was time for the dedication. The priests carried the Ark of the Covenant into the most holy place. Silence fell. And then, something happened. When the priests withdrew from the holy place, the cloud filled the temple of the Lord. And the priests could not perform their service because of the cloud, for the glory of the Lord filled his temple. 1 Kings 8:10-11. God had arrived. A radiant cloud descended, overwhelming the priests with divine presence. The people fell to their knees, and as Solomon stood before them, he stretched out his hands in prayer. Will God really dwell on earth? The heavens, even the highest heaven, cannot contain you. How much less this temple I have built? 1 Kings 8:27. Then fire fell from heaven. It consumed the offerings, and the people cried out in worship. The presence of God was undeniable. The temple was not just stone and gold, it was a declaration, a reminder that Israel was chosen, that God was among them. For a moment, all was as it should be. A king ruling in wisdom, a nation united in faith, a temple filled with God's glory. But moments don't last forever, and neither do kingdoms. No man falls in a single moment. It happens slowly, quietly, one compromise at a time. And Solomon, the wisest king in history, was no exception. The man who once stood in the presence of God, who built the most magnificent temple ever seen, would soon bow before idols. It began with love, not love for God, but love for the world. Solomon had a weakness, a desire for alliances, for power, for women. The Bible records that he had 700 wives and 300 concubines, many of them foreign princesses from Moab, Ammon, Edom, Sidon, and Egypt. At first, these marriages seemed strategic, securing peace with surrounding nations. But what started as diplomacy became something far more dangerous. King Solomon, however, loved many foreign women. They were from nations about which the Lord had told the Israelites, "You must not intermarry with them, because they will surely turn your hearts after their gods. 1 Kings 11, 1 through 2. Solomon did not listen. One by one, his wives brought their gods into Israel. At first, it was subtle. A small altar here, a private shrine there. But soon, the nation that once worshipped the one true God was filled with temples to Baal, Ashtoreth, Chemosh, and Molech, false gods of wood and stone. And the king, the man who had once prayed for wisdom, began to worship with them. The same Solomon who built the temple of God was now constructing high places for idols. He offered sacrifices, he burned incense, he bowed his head not to the God of Israel, but to false gods who demanded nothing but took everything. And God was watching. So Solomon did evil in the eyes of the Lord. He did not follow the Lord completely, as David his father had done. 1 Kings 11:6. The consequences were swift. The kingdom that had reached heights of unimaginable glory began to crumble. Enemies rose from the shadows. Hadad of Edom, Rezon of Damascus, and Jeroboam, one of Solomon's own officials, plotted rebellion. The cracks had formed, and soon the empire would break apart. God spoke through a prophet. "Since you have not kept my covenant and my decrees, I will tear the kingdom away from you and give it to one of your subordinates." 1 Kings 11:11. But even in judgment, there was mercy. For the sake of David, Solomon's father, God would not divide the kingdom in Solomon's lifetime, but after his death, Israel would be split. One part ruled by his son, Rehoboam, the other by his former servant, Jeroboam. Solomon, once the greatest king the world had ever known, spent his final years watching his empire crack under the weight of his own choices. He had everything: wisdom, wealth, power. But in the end, what good is wisdom if it is not obeyed? What does it profit a man to gain the whole world, yet forfeit his soul? Mark 8:36. His story is not just history, it is a warning, because if the wisest man in history could fall, so can we. Solomon's story is one of great wisdom, unmatched wealth, and ultimate downfall. He had everything a man could desire, yet he lost sight of the one thing that truly mattered: his relationship with God. His life stands as both an inspiration and a warning. And that's why this message is so important. Because history repeats itself. Because power, success, and even wisdom mean nothing if the heart is not right with God. So what do we learn from Solomon? That knowledge without obedience is empty. That prosperity without faithfulness is dangerous. And that turning away from God, even little by little, leads to destruction. Now before you go, take a moment. If this video has spoken to you, if you believe others need to hear this, help spread the message. Hit the like button, not just for the algorithm, but because it helps bring this truth to more people. Drop a comment, tell us your thoughts, your reflections, or simply type "God is great" as a declaration of faith. Share this video. Someone out there might be walking the same path as Solomon, and this could be the wake-up call they need. And if you haven't already, subscribe, because we're just getting started. More powerful, eye-opening content is on the way. God bless you all. Stay strong, stay faithful. And remember, wisdom is not in what you know, but in how you live.